Hi, I'm Clive Mathieson. I'm the editor of The Australian. I'm here today with Martin O'Shannessy, the Chief Executive of Newspoll, our partner in polling, always and through this election campaign. In the Weekend Australian on polling day, we have our most definitive news poll of the campaign. No pressure, Martin, but last time you called it to 1 percentage point. Just explain to us, sort of how this poll differs from perhaps some of the other ones that Newspoll does.
Well, for a start, it's twice as big as all of our normal polls and therefore reduces the margin of error by about a third and allows us to make some calls in the states and gives us that extra security to know that what we're putting into The Australian is going to be as accurate as possible so that we can lead people to the right conclusion as opposed to leading them astray.
What do the numbers show us? Let's start with the primary, and I guess what you see here is that Labor's pretty much gone backwards during the campaign. It hasn't been a good campaign for them. The coalition's been much more consistent.
Absolutely, and we see the coalition entering this campaign with around 47% of the primary vote. They're on 46 now. Labor, on the other hand, entered on 37 and they're on 33 now, and that's come out in the two-party vote, a constant 2-point difference in favour of the coalition over this campaign from where they started. So they entered the campaign on 52% of the primary two-party vote. They're now on 54%, and they seem like finishing that way tomorrow.
Yeah, and what do we see, in the different states? I mean, obviously, a lot of focus on New South Wales and Queensland, but really big swings as well in Victoria and South Australia.
Indeed, and in terms of how the seats run, of course, that won't have the biggest impact because a lot of safe seats for Labor in those states. But when we go back to New South Wales and Queensland, we see a lot of seats to change hands, particularly in Western Sydney. In fact, 2/3 or 3/4 of all the seats to change hands will happen in Western Sydney and the balance of New South Wales. And when you think about it, that big swing that went against the coalition in 2007 was partly regained in Queensland in 2010, and now the balance of those seats that went is coming out of New South Wales. So, if you like, the tables are almost completely turned on the 2007 situation.
One of the reasons I think some members of the Labor Party decided to return to Kevin Rudd was that he was a proven campaigner. He did particularly well in 2007. What do your numbers show on sort of satisfaction and dissatisfaction, and I guess the preferred Prime Minister ratings? How did Kevin Rudd campaign?
He campaigned okay, but he didn't beat Tony Abbott through the campaign. The last two polls we've done have Tony Abbott in front of Kevin Rudd on the question of who'd make the better Prime Minister. Now, he'd never done that before, and I guess when you look at the style of campaign that was being run, that decision to have a presidential campaign with a headland in Queensland based on Kevin Rudd probably wasn't the strongest decision that Labor made, because it left a lot of the rest of the seats open to contest, and I think we've seen the result.
So, having taken all that into account, all your marginals polling, all your regular polling, what do the seats look like? What does it look like at the end of polling day?
What we're going to see is a big gain for the coalition in New South Wales, probably 14 to 18 seats. In other states such as Queensland, perhaps 4, and the rest maybe 1 or 2 here and there. But the net result should be something like 50 or fewer seats for Labor and much above 90 for the coalition, probably with Katter and Wilkie still there as independents, but it seems likely the Greens will be gone, so it'll be a much less diverse parliament, I suppose you could say, but a very comfortable 50-seat majority for the coalition.
Yeah, you say much less diverse. I notice one of the numbers here has others, as you call them, polling 17% in Queensland, and right across Australia they're polling much higher than they were in 2010. A lot of that would be Katter and Clive Palmer's parties, I'd imagine?
I would say so, and we're looking underneath the polls, and numbers that are too small to publish, but with a bit of judgment I can say I think we're seeing Palmer eating up the Katter vote in a number of places, and I think that's been a big problem for Bob Katter. I don't think Bob Katter will lose his seat. I also wonder, what will happen on polling day, because people react to advertising. When they get there, they've got the how to vote card in front of them, and they need to choose one. So it'll be interesting to see. Sometimes we tend to overestimate those minor party votes before we get to the polling booth.
The last question you ask is, who do you think will win the federal election? And I guess no surprises with everything we know, but I think the answer is 3/4 of voters say the coalition is likely to win the election.
That's right.
And more tellingly perhaps is that half of Labor supporters expect the coalition to win as well.
52%, 34% still backing Labor among Labor supporters, and of course given that Labor supporters equal 33%, that's quite a small population.
Excellent. Martin, thank you very much for your time.
Always a pleasure.